guys, so welcome to your squads. We're in week 4 of our series called True Story, where we look at true stories from the Bible. We kind of bring in some illustrations from some Disney movies and then our everyday lives. And so I hope that you have enjoyed it. Don't forget, next Sunday night is rally night. So you want to make sure that you're inviting your friends to rally night at the church building. So Sunday night is rally night from 5:30 to 7. Free food. You don't want to miss it. All right, so have you ever done anything super risky? Maybe for you, a risk is simply trying a new haircut or a new hairstyle. Maybe it's that you ask someone really amazing out on a date, or doing something silly that might embarrass you. Maybe it was rebelling against your parents. Maybe it was sneaking out and risking getting caught. Let me tell you a story of a time that I did something risky. This for me was a story with me and my first truck. So my first truck was a 68 Chevy pickup. It was baby blue. You couldn't miss it. I did what is known as a neutral slam. Now you don't want to do it. Trust me, it does not end well. The transmission is in neutral and you rev up the truck as much as you can. And then all of a sudden you drop it into drive. And what happens is your transmission, your drive shaft, and your tires have to catch up to what you have just been putting into the engine. And so when you do that, all of those things start to spin as fast as possible. But the problem is that this piece in between, called the drive shaft, decided to shatter because it went to move so fast that it could not keep up. And so there I was, sitting in a parking lot, broke down with the busted drive shaft because I did something stupid and risky. And then I had to do what I did not want to do and call my dad to come and pick me up so that we could then fix my truck. The truth is that as teenagers, our brains are developing still. And so sometimes we are prone to make risky decisions that are not in our best interest. Learning to take risks for the right reasons is an important part of growing up and following Jesus. In the Disney movie Moana. Now, if you haven't seen it, I'm probably going to spoil a little bit for you, but it's been out enough years that, oh well. So Moana is the daughter of a Polynesian chief, and her island is dying. It is struggling to survive, and Moana is given a mission that only she can complete. Maybe it seems impossible or unbelievable that a teenager could be in charge of saving her entire island. But the truth is that Moana wasn't the only teenager that risked it all to save her people. So in the book of Esther, we have 4 main characters. First, we have Esther and her older cousin Mordecai. And Esther and Mordecai are Jewish people that are living in a town or in a city called Susa, which was part of the Persian Empire, and they weren't really known as a kingdom for following God. The king of Persia was also a main character in this, and then we had one of the king's men named Haman. Those are the 4 characters in this story. And as the story begins, the king of Persia is upset and angered at his wife, the queen, because of what she did to him. And so he sends her off, and then he has his king's men hold basically a beauty contest. And so they go out and they just gather a bunch of women and girls that didn't really have any choice in the matter, and enters them into this beauty contest to become the next queen and to marry the king of Persia. And Esther, a young Jewish girl, ends up winning this contest and becoming the king's queen. Now in this, it's pretty awesome and pretty great that she was elevated to this position being a Jewish person. And Mordecai ended up also becoming elevated because he uncovered a plot to kill the king. And so the king liked Esther and Mordecai. But then we had a problem when it came to one of the king's men named Haman. Haman convinced the king that all Jewish people should be killed because they would refuse to worship him. And at this point in the story, the king does not know that Esther is a Jewish girl. The king doesn't know that. And so he actually agrees with Haman's plan, and they issue a decree to kill every Jewish individual. And the queen is sitting there like, should I tell him? Should I not tell him? And it comes to this point. It comes to this point in Esther chapter 4, verses 14 to 16. And it says this: if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will come to the Jewish people from another place. But you and your father's family will be destroyed. Who knows? Perhaps you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. And then Esther sent a reply to Mordecai, who had sent that to her. Go and assemble all the Jews who can be found in Susa and fast for me. Don't eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. She wants them to pray on her behalf for 3 straight days. I and my female servants will also fast in the same way. After that, I will go to the king, even if it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. She could stay undiscovered and in peace right underneath the king's nose and not tell anyone that she was Jewish, or she could do something risky to try and save her people. If she succeeded, then everyone would be saved. But if she failed, then she would perish. And we read in verse 16 there that she says, if I perish, I perish. She came to this understanding and the realization that God had placed her in this position for such a time as this. And she said yes to the challenge and the call that God had for her to save her people. In the book of Esther, God is actually never mentioned once by name. Not once. And so it makes this story so interesting because behind every scene and on every page, you can find God's presence. Even when it seems like he is absent, you can find his presence. And in this book, it shows that God never gives up on his people, that he is always working, he has perfect timing, and that he uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. So if that's what this story reveals about who God is, then what does this story reveal about who we are? Number one is that we can be a people that trust that God won't leave us without help. We can trust that God is working even when our situation feels scary or out of control. Next, we are often called by God to do something risky, and we can be used by God to rescue others. Just like it talks about in Esther chapter 4, when it says from Esther that she chooses to go and do this. She chooses to go and try to save her people. And she makes the decision, if I perish, I perish. Look, Esther didn't choose to become queen, but Mordecai reminded her that she could choose what she would do next. Would she simply hide in fear, or would she allow God to use her in this situation? Would she protect herself, or would she do something risky to protect others? And like Esther, you were created by a God who is good. And you were created and called, and you can be used by your Creator to protect and rescue others. But sometimes it's going to be risky. And if you've ever had the opportunity to do something risky for God or for others, remember that because of who our Creator is, we can live for a purpose higher and bigger than ourselves. Because of who God is, we can take risks for each other. Sometimes I wonder if the reason that we don't take more risks for God or for others is that we are waiting for some miraculous sign that tells us what to do, like a burning bush that Moses had, or a voice from the heavens, or maybe even an angel coming to visit us and tell us exactly what to do. But in this story, we learn that Esther didn't wait around for a miracle or a special divine revelation. Esther didn't need those things because she knew who God was. She knew what God was wanting her to do. In the same way, you don't need a special invitation to take big risks for God or for others. When you get to know God better, you can better understand who God is and what He wants from you. When you understand who and what God values, you don't need God to tell you exactly what to do or when to do it. You can just go get to work. There are people right now who need food and clothes and shelter. There are people right now that need a friend or an advocate. And you have friends and family members right now that need to hear the good news of Jesus. It might be risky, but I want you to know that you are not alone or without help. And remember that because our God is a good creator, we can trust how He has made us. Because our God is powerful and present, we can do difficult things. Because God is in control, we can embrace the unknown. And because God is always working through and around us, we can take risks for others. And I want you to think about this. Whenever you read through the Bible, when you read a passage, what I want you to ask is 3 questions. Number 1, what does this passage reveal about who God is? Number 2, what does it reveal about who I am? And number 3, now what should I do about it?